So as it stands, I guess now that old senile Biden, since he's out of office, the Democrats have somehow found their marching shoes and their pink pussy hats. Oh, well, how special of that. And of course, now, people like Bernie Sanders want to tell you now that what Trump is doing in Gaza is completely inexcusable. Well done, Bernie. Though for the last 15 months, you do realize that people were asking the Democrats to step up and, oh, controversial statement here, maybe call an end to the war, maybe have a ceasefire. But the Democrats were never going to do it. The Democrats never had the audacity or the brain cells to even try and do it. But yet Bernie Sanders now has decided to tweet out something on Easy Street. He goes on the right, 47,000 plus Palestinians killed. That number is much higher. 111,000 injured. That number is much higher. Trump's response, forcibly expel Palestinians to make Gaza a real estate development for the future. A beautiful piece of land. No, Gaza must be rebuilt for the Palestinian people, not billionaire tourists, to which again, he was called out by Anya for the gray zone. You told us to vote for people who oversaw the slaughter, so your voice is worthless, which is absolutely correct. And of course, Nick from RBN. Remember how you was telling peace activists that was concerned about the genocide in Gaza that they should vote for genocide because there were other issues to care about? You know what? It's one thing to read a tweet. Hey, Bernie, you cuck, you nutless wonder. Why don't you tell it to the people?
It is literally impossible to understand what Trump is talking about in terms of Gaza. It is incomprehensible. Here you have a people who, in the last 15 months, have suffered unbelievably. Over 45,000 people in Gaza have been killed, over 100,000 have been injured, mostly women and children. Virtually all of the housing has been destroyed, the healthcare system, the educational system, all destroyed. And now, in response to all of that, what Donald Trump is saying, hey, we're going to push these 2.2 million people out of Gaza, and we're going to build something really beautiful like the French Riviera, so the billionaires can come and enjoy the beautiful view. It is grotesque. It is almost unspeakable. So together we are going to work and make sure that we rebuild Gaza for the Palestinian people, not for the billionaire class.
That's not going to happen because Bernie Sanders will never follow through. You know, I'm going to take a line from Succession because there's a character based on Bernie Sanders in that show. And our main character is the protagonist, called that Bernie Sanders equivalent, Meth Head Santa, who always promises but fails to deliver because he's trying to get his quick fix for the next buzz on social media. Because now Bernie Sanders, as a person, can now capitalize on the Trump derangement syndrome and the glorified protests, glorified parades that are going to be taking place because now, somehow, out of the blue, all these quote-unquote activists have found their leader again. And here's Bernie. He's saying he's now going to fight. No, Bernie Sanders never gave a damn about Gaza. Hell, he never even gave a damn about any of his policies. He was a hypocrite. He's been a fraud. He allowed his own campaign to be undermined during the 2016 primary and 2020 primary. He never gave a damn about the people who donated to his campaign. He never gave a damn about his social issues. He was only there to promote himself. The mask is off. But how interesting, because I decided to time travel. See, if you follow Hardlands Media on X, we reposted 6 videos. Well, we retweeted 6 videos that we did in 2024. I had one person say, geez, Kit, what did Bernie Sanders do to make you so angry? It's because in this little fantastic video, that's only 1 minute and 9 seconds, Bernie Sanders is saying one thing, but I could go back in time and, hell, you guys can find those videos on our X account as well, and say, that's not what you said before, Bernie. You were very queasy about the term genocide or what was happening in Gaza. You were hesitant to talk to your good friend Joe Biden for calling for a ceasefire because What Trump is doing, proposing U.S. take control over Gaza, it's a complete disaster. Never once did any intervention in with the U.S. going into the Middle East cause a complete disaster. Oh, wait, it has, because we've never been able to leave the Middle East since 2001. Bernie, in his infinite wisdom, never challenged it. So the reason why Trump is doing what he's doing now is because for 15 months, Biden and Kamala open up the door for Trump to do what he wants to do. And it's going to happen. And Bernie Sanders, he's going to be huffing and fuming. But look at how Bernie Sanders was acting just a year ago. Just a year ago, when he was, so queasy to talk about a genocide.
In your view, is what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide?
In my view, it is absolutely disgraceful, horrible, and I'm doing, as a United States Senator, everything I can to end it. And where I'm sitting is, and I don't know how many people know this, every year the United States provides about $3.5 billion in military aid to Israel. On top of that, there is a bill. I was supposed to be here earlier. Couldn't come because a bill came up for not just all for Israel, $95 billion, including $14 billion for Israel. And I have led the opposition to that. I do not want to see the United States complicit in what Netanyahu and his right-wing lunatic friends are doing right now to the Palestinian people.
But during 2024, and even then in 2023, when October 7th took place, Netanyahu visited the United States. You didn't raise a huff and a puff. You didn't raise a fuss. You didn't lift a finger. When confronted, you were silent. When confronted, you decided to give out a word salad. I remember doing a commentary on this video a year ago, Bernie. But now that Trump is in office, it is a genocide now. Now it's okay. You lying, backstabbing, shag off mother effer.
So my job right now is to support what the United Nations is trying to do, have a humanitarian ceasefire, see if we can get the humanitarian aid immediately in there, and work out, as complex and difficult as it is, some type of long-term solution to what's going on there.
But do you buy the South African case at the International Court of Justice that what Israel is doing in Gaza constitutes genocide or genocidal acts?
I think, look, we can argue about definitions. It is horrible. Right now,
oh my goodness, he's arguing the definition, but now it is. According to his tweet and his video that he did this month, it is now, because Trump, the orange boogeyman, woogie boogie 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 boogie, is in office. Hey, Bernie, if you don't think people see through you being the scam, charlatan, snake oil salesman that you are, what a legacy that you're leaving behind. I will not miss you once your tenure in the Senate is over. All what you did was talk and talk and talk.
29,000 people have been killed, and some 70,000 have been injured. Some 65% of the housing units have been destroyed or damaged. And I am worried right now, and I almost wonder why I'm in the UK and not back in the US dealing with this stuff, is that we have hundreds of thousands of children are facing starvation. That's what I have to work on right now.
But if one agrees that it is a genocide, it means that other states have a legal right and duty.
And Torwin says, wait, did he actually use the genocide word now? Why, yes, he did, because now Trump is in office. You see, the game was for all the quote-unquote progressive Democrats, the charlatans like AOC and Bernie. You see, their game was to shut up and let Biden run the neoliberal agenda. And now that Trump is in, hey, they found out that they could be rabble-rousers again. This is why you don't donate to Democrats. This is why you don't participate in the two-party system, because it always is the same. Once the Republicans are in office, the Democrats are rabble-rousers, but yet they say they have no leverage. And then as soon as the Democrats are in office, hey, whoa, what's going on? They lost their balls, and yet they're constantly placating to Republican lawmakers, and yet it's a game. It's like WWE storylines. But the difference is when you're watching the WWE, you're at least getting entertainment. When you're watching Congress, you're watching how these politicians are taxing you and screwing you up the wazoo. You know, all this revelation about USAID, you do realize that all these lawmakers knew about it, and all these lawmakers are doing insider trading. Hey, Bernie, you ever going to talk about that? No, probably not.
To prevent genocidal acts being carried out.
But see, we can talk about that. But what does that mean? I mean, in real terms? Right now, what I am trying to do is what I think is probably maybe, and I can do it because I'm a senator. You can't. Right now, maybe, if we tell Mr. Netanyahu that he's not getting a check for $10 billion more to continue his aggressive action, he and his right-wing friends may decide it is not a good idea to continue to do that. So that's where I am coming from.
In addition to stopping the billions of dollars in military aid that Israel gets from the United States every year, would you back calls for a cultural, sporting, and economic boycott of Israel?
I am nervous about economic boycotts of any country, to be honest with you.
But now he'll talk about economic boycotts. Now, because it's okay for him to do so, he's only following the orders.
But right now, what people want to do, they can do what they want to do. But right now, again, my job as a United States Senator, and I'm kind of leading that effort in the Senate, is to tell Netanyahu that he is not going to get any more US aid.
Did you feel nervous about the boycott movement against apartheid South Africa? Was that a concern you had?
I'm noticing everyone's giving a middle finger to Bernie Sanders. To quote Barnes Homestead, no Bernie fans in the chat? Hey, folks, do we have Bernie Sanders fans in the chat? Type 1 for yes, Kit. Feel the burn, baby. The type 2, man, F this charlatan. I wonder how many 2s are going to show up in the live stream chat. I truly do wonder. I wonder, do you ever wonder?
At the time?
What I thought that as an apartheid state at that point, it was important to put pressure. But people can do as they want. And that's all.
Do you think that it's right that British citizens and American citizens can go and fight in the IDF when, as you say, there are such profound humanitarian concerns in Gaza?
Well, I think if British and American people want to do that, I suppose they have the right to do it. It's not something that I've really thought a whole lot about.
Do you think they should have the right?
Look, I think what the Israeli government doing now is horrible. And I'm not quite sure why people would want to be, part of.
And this video, again, this whole video was from 2024, where Bernie was in Great Britain, of all places. This was when Biden was still president. So he's saying there's nothing he can do. You were in the Senate. You are a high-profile senator. You're good friends with that senile old bat, Joe Biden, at the time. By the way, again, folks, as it's been revealed, Joe Biden clearly was having cognitive declines even before he stepped foot into the White House. It's happening throughout the entire campaign trail of 2019 and 2020. Brilliant job in oversight, corporate media, right? We had a senile old man running the show while the ship was sinking. How'd you fare during the 4 years? But yet Bernie, just now, with that tweet and earlier video that I played, now he's calling it a genocide. Now he's in an uproar. But hold on. We're going to still continue to time travel in 2024 because it wasn't too long ago where even Bernie Sanders himself said he felt queasy about the word. Hell, he said it in Ireland too. Isn't that fantastic? And hold on, I'm going to do closed captioning right here. And I will be raising the volume for this video. It is a little low here, but there is captioning in here in which people can read it.
Is a UN trying to bring about a ceasefire, a humanitarian pause ceasefire, in order to provide the desperately needed aid that the Gaza people need. When you get to the word, I get a little bit queasy, and I don't what genocide. We use the word. We've got to be careful about that word.
It is a genocide.
What's your definition of genocide?
Bernie, you have funded Zionism yourself. You have funded the Israeli settler state. Here you are, pretending you aren't. It is disgusting. Liar, liar, genocide denier. Liar, liar, genocide denier. It's disgusting. It is reprehensible. You are a child killer. You are a genocide denier. The United States military industrial complex are the largest murderers in the world. It does not matter if it is a Democrat or a Republican. You have murdered people around the world. The Native Americans are still being genocided. I have never heard you once speak about genocide.
Interesting. Now, real quick here, because I think it's important for us to even go back further, because we're going to time travel just a little bit further back in time. Because, folks, I just wanted to share just a couple of things here. Just number one, while I still have your attention. This is on the Harlan's Media Twitter account. I want to show you just a couple of videos that I reposted. One from October 25th. Former Bernie Sanders staffers urged Senator Sanders to lead ceasefire resolution in the Senate. I reposted this on the X account, so you'll be able to find it at once after the show. You check it out. Give it a review. Bernie Sanders fails to repeat his statement on NBC that Gaza is Biden's Vietnam moment. Once again, Naomi Klein told Bernie Sanders to his face that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. Bernie Sanders dismisses and ignores questions on crisis in Gaza by closing the elevator door. Bernie Sanders' cowardice answer on the crisis in Gaza, economic boycott of Israel, and of course, Trump versus Biden, of course. And whoa, wait a minute. Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Democrats discredited as Biden turns a blind eye to crisis in Gaza. Bernie Sanders talks about what he would do if he was president and comments on Biden handling Gaza. And then, of course, finally, Bernie Sanders remains a political disappointment as he tiptoes around the crisis in Gaza. That is some of the videos that we reposted. But let's now time travel, shall we, folks, to 2014, 11 years ago, where Bernie tells someone to shut up.
Shut up! Hamas is sending missiles into Israel. Okay. And you know where some of those missiles are coming from? They're coming from populated areas. That's a fact. Hamas has used money that came into Gaza for construction purposes, and God knows they need roads and all the things that they need, and used some of that money to build these very sophisticated tunnels into Israel for military purposes.
For survival purposes.
Okay, one second.
Yes,
No, I don't want to be interrupted. The question was asked, it's a fair question, and I'm trying to. Look, if you don't,
Yes, they did.
you know,
Gaza's like
excuse me, shut up.
He says, shut up. See, that's how you know Bernie Sanders is a professional liar, all right? He says one thing and enacts another. He makes a statement about one thing and does another altogether. Because Trump is in, he could capitalize on people being emotionally charged. Because Trump is in office, he can capitalize on people's feelings about how they felt in 2016 and 2020. Oh, if only Bernie Sanders won. Let me tell you something. If Bernie Sanders won, nothing would fundamentally change. Because the thing is, there was that opportunity to maybe change the course that we are on. But Bernie Sanders was never that leader. He said one thing, but he didn't believe in his words. He took people for a ride. He ignored the fact what was happening to his campaign. And now, because Trump is in office, he can easily go after the cartoon villain. See, it's easy to vilify people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And listen, they are open to true criticism. And this whole exploitation and adventure potentially in Gaza is a complete disaster. Knowing the United States track record in the Middle East, it's going to be a disaster. All what this war has done for the past 15 months is laid down the foundations for the next war and the next war and the next war after. Forever war. Was there ever peace in the Middle East? No, probably not. But Bernie Sanders was never going to usher in that renaissance because throughout all of 2024, he was going to bat for Joe Biden. And how many times did we see progressives and independents and activists interrupt Democrats, Biden, Kamala, and everybody else that was campaigning in 2024? Why do you think the uncommitted vote went either third party, chose not to vote, and yes, even as a shocker to corporate media, even vote for Trump? I'm not expecting Trump to fix this crisis, but sometimes the greatest of evils can hide in the light. Sometimes the greatest of evils can wear a mask. Sometimes the biggest SOBs are people that claim they care about you, or care about you, what you care about. They claim they care about you, but they don't. They don't. Bernie Sanders doesn't care. He does not care. He's just right now trying to get people to donate, get enough suckers to empty out their wallet, go to the dying party of the Democrats. But what did Hakeem Jeffries just say? And I played this on yesterday's show. We have no leverage. They have no plan. The Democrats stand for nothing. And I want to pull up this one last video. Shout out to Nico House, my good friend. Shout out to Hotspot.
In a desperate attempt to get Arab Americans to vote for Kamala Harris after most of them have abandoned her this election because of her stance in Gaza, CNN calls on Bernie Sanders. Now, when Jake Tapper asked Bernie, why should Muslim and Arab and Palestinian Americans vote for Kamala Harris despite her horrid stance on the genocide that's happening right now in Gaza, Bernie responds by saying,
But to those people who are saying, well, I can't support Harris because she disagrees, Trump on that issue, even on that issue, is worse. Oh, Donald Trump would be worse on that issue.
Bernie, I'm not sure if you know this, but when it comes to foreign policy, there's actually not much more you can do to be worse than the candidate who is supporting a genocide. I feel like that should be obvious. Oh, but it actually gets even better. Bernie goes on to say that if Kamala Harris is elected, that they could move her left on that issue.
So if we are able to elect Harris, I think we're going to have an opportunity to move her on that issue.
I'm so sick of this motherfucker, bro. How are you going to try to gaslight Arab and Muslim Americans, trying to convince them that you can push her left on an issue which she promised over and over and over and over and over again she would not move on? But beyond that, Bernie, haven't we already heard this story before? Remember when we were all like, why the fuck would we ever consider voting for a segregationist as president of the United States? And you were like, because we can push him left. And 4 years later, we're still waiting for you to push him left. But
They never did. You know, all this talk of what Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden did together, nothing fundamentally changed. Things got progressively worse. And you think, here's the interesting thing, and we covered this in 2020. When the Bernie Sanders campaign and Biden campaign sat down after Bernie Sanders spread his cheeks for Obama and the Democrats, Bernie's campaign got nothing in the sit down. No access. No nothing. Hell, the Senate parliamentarian and non-elected official. By the way, whatever happened to that Senate parliamentarian? The way corporate media was talking about that person, it was like the end-all, be-all, like the Pope of Rome.
all you did was spend the last 4 fucking years pushing his agenda and then making excuses when he fucked us over. To that point, Jake Tapper says, well, you know, Kamala actually used to agree with you on Medicare for all, fracking, and all those policies that you continue to support. But now she doesn't. So in other words, we know Kamala can be pushed to the left because over the last 4 years, not only has he managed to not push Biden or this administration to the left, but Kamala has actually moved more to the right. What's even worse is Jake Tapper couldn't even bring himself to say the word genocide. He said Arab and Muslim Americans are choosing to not vote for Kamala because of her support of Netanyahu. No, Arab Americans and Muslim Americans are not supporting Kamala because they're tired of seeing their brothers, their sisters, their mothers, their cousins, their aunts, their uncles, their family, their friends bombed into fucking oblivion. Not supporting a prime minister of a country and completely and totally rebuking genocide are two totally different political stances, my guy. But of course, Bernie didn't even bother to correct him. Not even Bernie could say the word genocide during that interview.
And he can't, and he won't.
So people, at what point does Bernie Sanders lying to cover up for the empire, lying to cover up for Biden, lying to cover up for Kamala, make him as bad, if not worse than them? I just need to know. Because I remember he sold us down the river for a fucking position within the Democratic Party in the Senate. He got a senior position and did absolutely nothing when he got there. And now he's trying to get Arab and Muslim Americans to do what a lot of progressives did in 2020, which is vote for a genocidal, hawkish maniac. Can't say it enough, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely. Absolutely indeed. And see, the thing is to answer Nico House's question, because that video was from 2024, and even he will agree. Everybody will agree. Every one of you will agree. The only time Bernie Sanders is going to speak out is if the Democrats lost and Trump got into the White House. Now, we here at Harlan's Media, we predicted that Trump was going to win. Quasimodo, hey, he predicted all this, that he had a very clear pathway in. And now Bernie Sanders has found his marching shoes. So to my Chicago audience directly, and yes, even to you, my continental audience and my worldwide audience, but mostly to the American people. I know, hold on. People of the free world, I'll get to you. But when you see a glorified Ho-Fest protest parade marching down the street, just remember, honk the horn and say, hey, it's good to see you guys when you were asleep for 4 years. So good to see Bernie Sanders now choosing the fight. Tell that to the dead, Bernie, because there were days, hours, minutes, seconds in which you could have done more, but he chose not to because he's a cuck.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry, it's spent a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, not me, us, as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd, and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now, we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. Because he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.